Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all doing well. So this is just a little chess game that me and my friend played yesterday, and I was playing as white and he played as black. So let's get right into it. So I started with e4, and then he responded with e5, and then knight f3, bishop c5, pretty much just did normal development moves. And yeah, we just moved our pawns. Bishop g4, pinning my knight. My plan was to move my knight to g5 so that I can go to f7 to go for the fork on the queen and rook with the bishop supporting my knight, but I guess he saw my plan, so he decided to take care of that right away. So instead of moving my knight, obviously, because I would lose my queen, I just castled, and then his queen came out and developed my knight, and then his pawn came down. I took it since it was hanging, and then he moved his queen there to g6, and then I took the pawn on b7. He develops his knight, and the rook was just pretty much trapped, so I basically won myself a free rook. He moves his bishop to h3, noticing that my pawn on g2 is pinned, so he's trying to go for mate in 1 right now, but I saw that right away. So my initial plan was actually to go g3 with this pawn here, but then I would lose my rook. But it does stop checkmate, which is nice, but I would lose my rook in return. So an even better move, and actually a brilliant move in this position would be to go knight h4, which would seem like a strange move at first, but here's what's happening. Queen is trapped. If you look real carefully, this queen cannot go here because the knight is controlling that square as well as the pawn. It can't go there because of the bishop, can't go there because of the queen, can't go there because of these pawns, and can't go to any of these h squares, so it's pretty much trapped, and he has nothing he can do left with his queen. So he moves his queen to g5, and then I took it obviously, and then h6 to kick away my bishop, but I took his bishop on h3, he took mine on g5, and then d4, kicking his other bishop away, which I'm kind of surprised he actually surrendered instead of taking it with his pawn, but that's also another possible move. Rook e1 to pile up some pressure on this central pawn here. And then he took my hanging knight there, which I should have son, but I didn't, but that's alright. And then I chased his bishop around some more, so he tried to attack my rook by going bishop e4. Obviously I wouldn't let that, so I kicked his bishop away by going c3. And then he went a5, and then b4, kicking it away even more. So he went bishop b6, and I just started advancing my pawns and gaining more space on the board. And then he finally took my pawn on e4, so I took it with my rook, and I'm assuming he didn't see this coming, but he actually traded rooks. So I took his rook back with my bishop that was stuck on the top left corner of the board, and then he went a5. So I took his pawn on e5, he took mine on b4, I took it back, and now he's threatening to take my knight, so I went queen d6. So if he were to take my knight, then I would take his knight, put him in check, and then win his bishop, so I'm basically winning 2 pieces when he's only getting my knight, and it's just pretty much game over from there. So he didn't take my knight, instead he pushed his pawn to f6, which I think is actually a fatal mistake, because now his king has nowhere to run, because my bishop is controlling these squares, this diagonal here, and pretty much from this point on it's mate in 4. Let me check. Yes, according to Stockfish it says mate in 4. So now I went a5 to kick away the bishop, and it retreated to a7, and then knight c7 check, and the only square that the king can go to is f7, so that's where it went. And then I went check again with the knight supporting my queen, and then the king went to f8, and it's just checkmate. Good game.